Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about the Fantastic Four. But before we get into that, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love to hear from you guys. We've got a fantastic community here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So, all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to today's story begins on Earth K in 2025 when Ben Grimm, Herbie the Robot, Johnny Storm, and Reed Richards go to the old Baxter building. Jack greets them but is a little uneasy around Reed. After all, Reed used to be married to Jack's wife. Speaking of Sue Storm, she's surprised that Reed is even here. And very quickly, it becomes apparent that Reed does not want to be here. So Sue deduces that the other members of the Fantastic Four dragged him here to this family dinner. Soon after that, Valeria Richards shows up, and Valeria has two children of her own now, named Reed II and Sue II, who are the grandchildren of the original Reed and Sue. And for longtime listeners of the podcast, you'll recall that the Scarlet Witch longed for things to be like they used to be. So her subconscious mind caused her reality warping powers to make that happen. And that's why so many of the grandkids are named after their grandparents, they look like their grandparents, etc. And they're not the only ones to come to this family dinner. Ben's wife is here. She is Sharon Ventura Grimm, aka She Thing, and she's also known as Ms. Marvel too. And with them is their daughter from the comics, who is Alice Grimm. And she has her kids, who go by Benny and Jerry Grimm. Human Torch's ex wife is Frankie Ray Storm, aka Nova, also known as Human Torch 3. And they have a daughter who's also from the comics, and her name is Mary Storm. And Mary's kids are also named after their grandparents. And again, everybody here looks young and healthy, even though our game world uses real time rather than comic book time. For various reasons, nobody here looks elderly, even though some of them are grandparents. Anyways, so they all sit down to dinner, and like we said in a previous episode, Jack feels uncomfortable because his gut instinct is that the original Reed Richards is going to do something, and Jack's wife is going to fall in love with Reed all over again, and that Sue is going to leave Jack. But as Reed and his grandson talk, we see on full display that Reed is losing touch with his humanity. Just then, Herbie tells everybody here that somebody just broke into Four Freedoms Plaza. So everybody goes to check that out, which brings us to the main plot of this adventure. So the 15 superheroes travel to Four Freedoms Plaza, and they are Alice, Ben 1, Ben 2, Frankie, Herbie, Johnny 1, Johnny 2, Mary, Reed 1, Reed 2, Sharon 1, Sharon 2, Sue 1, Sue 2, and Valeria. So that is the Fantastic Four. And then the kids and the grandkids are referred to in our game world as Fantastic Force. So the Invisible Woman, as previously stated, spent some time on Paradise Island, aka Themyscira, and as such, she decided to borrow a page from Wonder Woman's playbook by using her force manipulation to create an invisible jet. It is actually shaped like a jet from 1961 when the Fantastic Four first got their powers from the cosmic rays of the first Galactus. The invisible jet lands on the roof of Four Freedoms Plaza, and the heroes all pile out. They go down into the building, and Herbie tells them that the alarm is coming from Reed's lab. So Reed transforms his body into something akin to the light cycles from the Tron movies, and he heads to the lab as soon as he can. We roll initiative, and this time Reed gets to go first. What he finds are a group of men with large heads, kind of like that of an alien gray. Each one is wearing a silver chrome helmet to protect that big brain of theirs. And each one is wearing a dark blue costume. There is a rather abstract symbol on the costume that sort of looks like those models that people build of molecules, where there's a white circle connected to a white line, which then is connected to another white circle. And these guys act a bit like the Borg from Star Trek. They are examining all of Reed's stuff to see if he has invented anything that they have not. Reed tells them to get away from his stuff, and since they have a hive mind, the nearest one becomes the mouthpiece for the collective. He steps forward and says they're not here to damage Reed's equipment or disrupt his experiments. Rather, they are simply gathering knowledge. Ben Grimm asks who this guy is, and this being refers to himself as the Maker. Each Maker has Omni Arm, which he uses to turn his hand into something akin to a tricorder from Star Trek. Using it, he is scanning and cataloging everything. And he detects that Reed's grandson has inherited a little bit of his uncle Franklin's omni power. Each maker then becomes aware of this through their hive mind, and they want to dissect the boy to see how they can replicate this. So one maker says, "We will add your biological distinctiveness to our own." Valeria says, "Like hell you will." And she blasts that maker that was closest to her son. And of course, we're in initiative and the battle happens. Reed the First is concerned about his lab and everything in here, which again punctuates where his priorities are. He orders Sue to erect force fields to protect his stuff, but not his grandchildren. So, of course, Sue is not about to do that. She uses her force manipulation to attack the nearest maker. And it looks like these villains have the same powers as the T-1000 from Terminator 2. Ben Grimm says it's clobbering time, and he punches one of these guys, and that's when we get the big reveal. This guy's helmet comes off, and Ben is shocked to discover that the maker is Reed Richards, an alternate Reed from an alternate dimension. When Herbie the robot sees one of the makers try to dissect one of the grandchildren, Herbie subs an Omni gadget for the bomb power. So he hits his foe with a grenade like device that enters his liquid metal like body and then splatters it. To the horror of the heroes, the goo can all then turn into smaller Reed Richards. And then each one of them can substitute their stretching for the growth power and then get back to their original size. The Human Torch uses fire on these guys, though, and that works. Invisible Woman and Invisible Girl also manage to contain their enemies in a force field jar. of sorts. And in the end, that jar is compressed down, pressurizing the liquid reeds within it. And they place the jar on a time disk, so the maker is in timeout. Which brings us to the epilogue. The family basically gives Grandpa Reed an intervention. He has now seen firsthand the path that he is on. In fact, the heroes don't know that these makers were from alternate dimensions. That they actually think that this is their Reed from the future using the split power. So all the heroes get a team attack bonus using the charisma skill to try to get through to Reed. And that works. Reed admits that he's lost touch and that he needs to get a handle on things, which is interesting because Sue's husband doesn't want Reed to become a villain or an army of villains, as the case may be. But this brings us right back to that fear that Reed is going to become a better man and that somehow he's going to get back with Sue again. So Sue and Jack are in the Baxter building quietly talking about Jack's insecurities in the kitchen as they clean up after the family dinner. And Sue tells him that he has nothing to worry about. She says that she did not like what she saw today, and what she saw was the worst possible version of Reed. But Sue is wrong. At Four Freedoms Plaza, the top of the building is ripped off, exposing the area where those time discs are stored. And Galactus looks down at Firelord and Terrax in stasis. He destroys the discs, and Firelord and Terrax kneel before their master. The original Galactus, aka Galen of Ta, says, "You have failed," in a loud, booming voice. Galactus also destroys the time discs that contained the Maker and Malice. All that compressed goo that was the Maker shapeshifts into one Reed Richards, and he asks why Galactus is here. Galactus says, "I have come here for a purpose. This is my command. You are to destroy the Fantastic Four. They are the one thing, the only thing that can stand in my way." Malice says, "Why should we? What's in it for us?" So Galactus offers to make them his heralds. Malice says, "I belong to nobody." So Galactus says, "Perhaps I misjudged you." Then he threatens to devour the would-be recruits. Malice screams, and the Maker says, "We accept your terms." Galactus says, "Excellent," then transforms them, just as he transformed Norrin Rad into the Silver Surfer. Malice is now transparent and covered in transparent spikes, and the Maker looks even more liquid metal than he did before. Firelord and Terrax join them, and now what we see is that Galactus has four cosmic heralds of his own who each represent a different member of the Fantastic Four. Terrax is their Ben Grimm, Firelord is their Johnny Storm, etc. And Galactus says, "Now go, destroy the Fantastic Four." And of course, the heroes and the villains do clash, but that's a story for another day. We enjoyed this one. We hope you did too. If so, we would love it if you chose to support our humble little channel by smashing that like button. Make sure you're subscribed and leave us a comment. And from everybody here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.